I've been waiting a long time for this conversation. My guest has spent years serving faithfully on a worship team, carrying pressure, unseen sacrifice, and the quiet cost of staying planted. We talk about what nobody prepares you for, when your gifting grows faster than your environment, when faithfulness feels heavy, and how God forges real authority in obscurity. If you've ever carried more than people could see, stay with us. So I finally get to interview my favorite person in the whole wide world.
No, you ain't not.
So for those of you that don't know, this is my husband, and we have been married for 20 years.
Yes.
And he's also our drummer. My favorite drummer, although I'm a little bit biased. How long have you been playing drums?
So, I got my first set when I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
And I beat on that set for years. In fact, I think the drummer for our church at the time, he was the pastor's son.
Mm-hmm.
My parents had him come over and he showed me the first, any drummer will know what I'm talking about. It's the 4/4 time beat, that regular rock beat. So you can play a million songs to that beat. And and I played that song for the next several years, and that's the one beat my poor mother had to listen to every single day for years, over and over and over. Anyway, around 8 years old, my parents were like, we need to find someone who can actually teach this kid. My instructor, his name was Danny Baker. I took lessons for him for several years until he finally got to a point where he said, there's nothing else I can teach him. This is as far as we can go. But about a year before, I had around age 12, they started talking about putting together a children's church, children's ministry band. That was my first kind of introduction to playing in front of people, in front of for church, using the drums as a ministry tool. And after that, shortly I started playing on the actual praise team when their drummer wasn't there, or if he I think he eventually became the praise and worship leader there, and so I stepped into that position at the time.
You've been playing here for how many years?
I guess we've been here for pushing 18 years, and joining this ministry is probably the best decision I think you and I have ever made, outside of me, trying to woo you.
Yeah, well, it was funny because I still think back.
By the way,
I still think back to the day that you showed up at the encounter and you were approached by
Elder Steve Jones. And if you know Elder Steve, then you know. But if you don't know Elder Steve, you need to know.
You need to know.
Elder Steve Jones came up to me and he said, "I heard you play the drums." And I was like, "Not really."
How many years was it that you think? I think it was around maybe a dozen years or so that it was just you and Elder Steve on drums and keys, and we played with tracks.
We played for years. I would be on the drums on one side of the stage, and Elder Steve would be on the keyboard on the other side, and he played the keys with his right hand and the bass portion of a song with his left hand. And we had fantastic praise and worship.
Yeah.
With just the two of us. It doesn't take much.
Yeah.
For those of you, those ministries who think, we don't have everything we need. You don't need a lot.
Yeah.
People have had mighty moves of the Spirit with a keyboard a piano or an organ. They did for years. You don't need a full band in order for the Spirit to move. It helps.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Trevor. But it's not necessary for the Lord to move. And we
obedience is.
Yes, obedience.
Obedience is necessary for the Lord to move, not a full band.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we did for years. It was Elder Steve and myself and you know, it was great settling back into that thing. And, I was playing the drums and it felt more natural than ever. And I don't, there are some things that you don't have to think about, like whenever you do them, and playing the drums is something I've never had to think about. I feel it. And I think a lot of people who are trying to learn, or they feel like they can, or they kind of talk themselves out of it because they think they can't. Oh, I would never be able to. I'm not coordinated enough to do all these things with my hands and my feet, and practice, of course. But this was a settling into the right place with the right people, and being where you're supposed to be when the Lord tells you to be there.
Yeah.
And I think we ran for a little while, but when this came back up, we knew where we were supposed to be.
Yeah.
And we've been here ever since. This is what we do.
We don't do date nights. I mean, we do date nights.
Yeah.
But this, what we do with praise and worship, and there are so many people that, so many couples that's what they do is praise and worship. And it's a date night for them. There's such a connection.
Yeah, and kind of behind the scenes, folks, the way it works with us is if we are on a date night, this is what we're talking about. If we're
kids,
we've got children, and they're awesome, but they're also now part of the ministry, and we're very proud of them. And our little guys want to be part of the ministry, and and it's just this is what we do at night when we go to bed. When we're going to sleep, our pillow talks is about the ministry, and it's where things are going, and what we're where we can, how we can move forward, making things better, always improving, going from where we are to where we need to be, and never being satisfied with where we are. We did that for too long, just being satisfied and complacency. And I think you and I are both at a place where we don't want to do that again.
Never again. I could never go back to feeling like I'm too tired to go to church, but to feel like I can't because maybe they'll make me submit, because there's so much freedom given when you show up, when you don't forsake the gathering together of yourselves, when you root and ground yourselves in a ministry. There have been so many times in praise and worship that I turn and I look at you, and we have Matt, who's our MD, and he's calling the shots in our ears and all that sort of thing. But there are so many times that I just turn and I lock eyes with you, and I know, all right, we need to go somewhere, and I need you to lead me.
Right.
Because being under submission under you is such a privilege. I don't have to think about certain things because I know that you are leading. But when we're in the middle of praise and worship and I turn and I lock eyes with you and I go, okay, where does this moment need to go? Because it's our job to take people from where they came in, from the fight on the way over, from, the terrible week that they had, to lifting them from glory to glory and bringing it to a place where we're passing a baton. We're not handing over a fumbling mess to our pastor to carry it on. And you lead so well. Drums are such an integral part of a praise team, looking to you and going, okay, where do we need to go from here? And then turning back to the congregation and saying, okay, this is what he said. Let's go.
Well, there is you and I have kind of a special thing, and you do see it's not so out of the realm of possibility for many people, because there are there are people who take up that mantle all across America and the world, where you've got people who especially when it comes to leading worship, you've got one person who does this thing in there and one person who does another. Like for us, you are the praise and worship leader, I'm the drummer, and I think it's kind of an unfair advantage to us, because you and I have spent so many years being on the same page,
Yeah.
And so there are times when you would maybe give a signal to our ND or something,
Yeah.
and he's not quite on the same page.
Right.
And then you turn around and you're like, you know where I'm going, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
and I do.
Yep.
And we get there.
Yep.
We just kind of make it happen. And not taking away from the importance of MDs. We love you, Matt, by the way. But there also comes that kind of odd situation to be put into a place of submission to you.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that, there's a lot of education that you needs to come when understanding submission, because you have the wife who submits to the husband. Here we are submitted to the pastor, the head of this ministry, and his vision for this ministry.
Yes.
Underneath that, there's a hierarchy kind of how things work, and you need to understand that over this area you may need to submit to this person, over this area you may need to submit to this person. They all submit to the pastor and his direction. And it's funny for you and I to be in a position where we kind of switch a little bit. When we get here, this is no longer the husband and wife thing. It is, but we kind of have to make that switch.
Yeah.
To where here in this place we change our direction as far as who is submitting to whom.
Yes.
So here you are the praise and worship leader. I submit to your direction in this situation. Now, when we get home or on the ride home, we can switch back and you can look at me and say, I don't know if that went the way I wanted it to go, or what do you think? Do you think that was great? And I can say, I don't think that was awesome. Well, or I can say that was extremely impressive, and it's amazing to see what you did with that. I would have never thought to go there. And we can go from the point of we can look back and still be under submission at the same time. But sometimes even our general conversation will have to change.
Yeah.
When we're at the house and something comes up about this, and you have to say, as your praise and worship leader, I need you to do this.
Right. Yeah.
And that kind of authority has to switch from, I'm not telling you this as your wife.
Right.
As your praise and worship leader and the one that you need to submit to in that area. I need you to pick it up. I need you to do something different. I'm looking for this, and I need to know that you can do it. If you can't do it, I need you to learn how.
Yeah.
So like if you can say, I know you're gifted. I know you can do, I know that you have experience doing this thing. But I think there's a grace that God gives you whenever you do a thing from week to week and you get too comfortable doing that thing. And I think that for a while, God will grace you with that.
Yeah.
And he will, and I believe that there are times where when you're in the will of God and you're doing what you're doing, and you're flowing in the Spirit from stage, I do believe that there are times where you can make a mistake. And somewhere in between the, a crash or the pluck of a string and a bad note from the stage, somewhere between there and the ear of the congregant, the Holy Ghost and be like, let's change that and make it sound right, because I know what you're trying to do, you know. And I think there are times for that where there is that grace there that God gives you. But then I think there are also times where after a while, maybe the Spirit's like, you've had time to fix this.
Yeah.
I think that you should have figured it out by now, and I'm not going to do that all the time. Now it's a time for excellence. So that doesn't give you an excuse to not practice. That doesn't give you an excuse to better yourself. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know exactly what you mean, because he's our Father. And that's what you do as a parent with your kids. You give them the opportunity to have that buffer. But then if they go and they falter and they get ready to fall, you pick them up for a certain period of time, as long as they're not, you can't enable them.
Right.
You can't be enabling.
Good try. Okay, better luck next time. You know, that's, you know, we're proud of you. But
Exactly.
but
He's a loving Father.
But after a while, that responsibility lands on you to either, you know, figure it out. Like a better, you know, if you don't know how to do the fill, or, you know, if you're not hitting the right note or whatever, you can figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't depend on God to fix it for you. You go and, you know, with YouTube and confidence, as you like to say, or just direction.
Yeah.
And you go and you find what you need to do. Find someone who knows how to do what you need to do, and either learn from them. If it's a person, if it's a video, you go and you find the part where you need to work on, and you adjust what you need to adjust to make it work. You need to do the best that you can. And, you know, we have kind of a mindset here where we do everything with excellence.
Yes.
We try to do everything with excellence, you know, and sometimes that gets missed just by either complacency, or, you know, or exhaustion.
Yeah, there's a ditch on both sides of the road. I think there's complacency on one side, perfection on the other.
Right.
And then you have to drive down the middle of the road. You can't fall into complacency. You can't fall into perfection. You have to drive down the middle of the road, which is excellence. And excellence comes when you're obeying. And I can't believe where all of this has gone. I mean, this has been an absolutely fantastic conversation, and I wish that we could go on forever. So I want to know more about, obviously I know, but I want to be able to pull out and draw out and have another conversation with you. Will you come and do this again?
Of course.
I love you.
We've been doing this for a long time.
Yes, I want to be able to talk with you more, and I want to know what you guys have as questions. What do you have questions for a drummer and praise and worship leader dynamic, for a musician who's been doing this for, you know, over 30 years? I want to know, what do you want? And we will answer those questions for you, because this has been a neat season of our lives, and it's about to grow exponentially. So
Right.
let us know what you want to hear.